sculpting a bobblehead, we want the opening of the bobblehead doing something like this. So we want the opening to be so big. So I cut a dowel and marked it. We use Super Sculpting. We roll it out into sheets. It helps it dry out a little. It's just build the clay up on the dowel until we get the size of the head. We just want to pack it down firm so there's no air pockets. Pretty much have the shape that we want to start with. Pretty symmetrical. Just making some lines. So you want to find the center going horizontally. Because really your eyes are in the center of your head. It's an equal distance to the top of your head. And halfway between the eye and the chin is the bottom of your nose. Extra clay add for the nose. The corners of your mouths meet up with the center of your eye. And here the side of the mouth always goes in deeper. For the eyeballs, what we're gonna do is make two little balls. We're going to add more clay to form that part of the lip. So now we're ready for some ears. So I did even amount of clay for both sides. Ear shapes, and again the top of the ear lines up with the corner of the eye. So the eyebrow looks like they start about a little bit in from the corner of his corner of his eyes right here. The eyebrows start about there. His eyebrows are also really close to his eye here, so just kind of pushing the clay around. And I'm roughly following along the line that the hairline that I drew in. Okay, so we got a lot of chunks on for texture for the hair. We're going to try and smooth it in and make it look like here. You want to drag this part right into the forehead so it's pretty seamless. You want a line all the way around. Add a little hair for this. Shim part. I'm going to add some extra hair for the mustache. this is pointy, and to just make little lines. Okay, now we want to do the eyeglasses. So I don't know if you can see here. I took some clay and rolled it out really thin on a flat surface. Just cut off the extra. Take the eyeglass, wrap it around the ear. We just go around the head and make sure we have all the things smoothed out, enough detail. Ta-da! Now we'll take approval pictures, send them to the customer, and see what they say. This is just a wooden circle, nice and wide enough so the bobblehead itself doesn't, fall over or anything. This is my armature, and this is a two-part epoxy, self-hardening, so I can create the pin on the top and just a surface, hard surface to sculpt onto, and it won't fall off the base. So now this is pretty permanent. They requested a cool guy with a leather jacket and a microphone, so we just pretty much start like this. Take your Sculpey and you just start pressing it down. You want to press it in pretty firm to prevent air bubbles in there. So I'm continuing to build to get the basic shape. Now we're ready to add some arms. I'm gonna make his left arm with his hands in his pockets. Just smush some clay and roll it out. His right arm's gonna be holding the microphone. So we're gonna sculpt and bake up that microphone separate and then stick it to them while we're still sculpting. And make sure the arms are roughly the same size. It's a leather jacket. He's gonna have big shoulders and a big collar. Kind of modeling it after 50s style. So now we're gonna make ourselves a little microphone that he's gonna be holding. You really just look online, you find a microphone, and then you copy it. We have some clay that's rolled thin and flat. Then we're going to take our dotting tool. You just dot the head of the microphone all the way around. And try not to overlap the dots. Now we want another thin strip. Let's go around the head. Try to flatten it out a little more, make it thinner. Ta-da! I'm gonna bake this up in my toaster oven. I'm gonna bake it at 250 for 15 minutes. It needs to be 250 for 30 minutes. We'll just do 15 and make it hard enough so we can attach it to the sculpt, but it won't get messed up while you're sculpting around it. I think my microphone's gonna go about here. Pretty good. I'd actually have to still take the collar down a little bit. This will be the fingers wrapping around. Top of the hand. Added some more detail while you were gone. Some detail to the leather jacket and jeans. Just kind of adding pockets. So we just did them light, just in case we do them the wrong size. We can fix that. And so what we want to do now is add some detail to the hands, some fingers, which is easy enough. Now we'll do this hand. Doing something that's rounded like a finger, what you want to do is smooth it out horizontally, not vertically, and that'll give you the rounded look of a finger. So I'm going to keep finessing and be right back. So I want to add some more knuckles to this hand. So I'm just going to take a little piece of clay, squish it down the sides. So now what I want to do is add some more detail to his shoes. I'm going to add a sole. So we're going to get a thin strip of clay. It's a nice straight line. Okay, so this is what we want to use. I am actually going to thin this out a little more. Stretch it. I don't want to stretch too much. Shove it in there. Kind of want to smooth it out and make sure there's no gap in the bottom. It meets the base nicely and that it is secure against the shoe. So we got a little bit extra, so we're just going to keep pushing it towards the back. That's a pretty good sole. Add a little bit to the foot and back here, to the upper heel. Simple shoe. We just add a little bit of detail. So where the lace up area would be. Okay, we're gonna put in a quick seam down the side of his jeans, really lightly. Doesn't have to be straight down because you want to kind of get wrinkly on the bottom where it starts, the bottom of his pants start to wrinkle up. Now what we want to do is we want it to say boss on the back, the old FS. So you're looking at the midline, so you're gonna have one S here. So it's a nice pointy tool to really super lightly going in there and drawing it out. That's why we do it really lightly, because you're bound to mess up. You mess up and smooth it right out. To make stuff nice and smooth, I use a liquid polymer clay mixed with a polymer clay softener, and that helps smooth it out and at the same time fill. I don't know if you can see it, but it says boss. So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time finishing. Okay, so it says boss in the back now. Now we just want to add a couple little like studs to the jacket. It's kind of like a snap or a little button or something. So these are just small little balls of clay.
sticky. Nice, right? And so these are so small. I went around with my rubber tool and kind of got it to stick. These are so small, which are liable to mess them up. So we want to take our little mixture of liquid Sculpting and Sculpey clay softener, so not the hair, and just want to dab it around. The liquid Sculpey acts also as a glue. And once it's adhesive when it's baked up to the same temperature as the clay. So that keeps these little guys from falling off. You can also fill in spots with it. See how that goes in pretty deep. You want to wipe it in and you can leave it kind of blobbed in there. It'll fill in that space nice. Make molding a lot easier. We also want to add some detail, some little details to the collar. Our little studs. Now my fingers are greasy. See, another way to do this is to roll out a thin little worm, and then you just cut tiny sections off. You can apply it. That's a much better, easier idea. You also want to make a little tag right here, just to represent the zipper. And that what you can do too to make painting easier is just give it a little line right here. See, now this can be painted in. So there you have it. It's a guy with a leather jacket, the boss.
Okay, you've seen these guys before. There's the body and the head. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to take you through the molding process. And what we're going to do right now is just start making the mold and how to set up to make a mold. So we're going to start off with the head. Bring in a head holder. This is the center of a roll of electrical tape. So you could use anything you want. Try to keep your costs down. Try to keep it simple. What we're also going to bring into the frame is some kicker for your crazy glue. We're going to use some crazy glue, basic crazy glue that you get off the shelf. We fashion the pin. This will be the injector pin where we pour our material. And this is a gate. That's so the air can leave the mold when you're pouring the material. And a simple ice cream stick. There it is, tongue depressor, whatever you want to call it. Every hobby shop has these. They're relatively inexpensive. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get your kicker ready, get your crazy glue ready, make sure a small little dot comes out when you need it. We're all ready to go. Here's the head. And what we're going to do is we're going to inject material through the chin part. So we're going to have to glue that right there and make sure it's nice and tight. So I'm making sure it's center in the front, center through the back, and typically it won't set up on a lot of different sculpting materials. So what you're going to want to do is use an accelerator. That accelerator will make it adhere, but it'll also make it weak. So you have to decide what you want: weak, strong, quick, fast. So what I do is I remove the accelerator. Now that it's already applied, it is attached, but what you have is a very weak joint. So what I'm going to do is quickly run a bead on the opposing side. I'm going to fill in that groove. And what you're going to get is we're going to let that glue dry naturally. So it'll take a few minutes. Just put that head back down. And even though it's not totally dry, we're going to set up the hanging part of this. So this head will hang inside of a mold. You're going to pour silicone into that mold, and it'll encapsulate the head. Then we cut the mold open and remove the head, and we should have a fantastic mold. So in order to hang it inside of a mold, all we're going to do is quick drop of glue. We're going to use your tongue depressor. We're going to hang it. So we're going to hang it off of the front side by about an inch, inch and a half, and off the back. And that's going to give you a platform to hang, make sure that your head is suspended. And I always do, hit it with some glue in the back. And now what we need to do is we need to add a gate here, from the back of the head all the way up to your depressor. And what'll happen is, as you're pouring material in the mold this way, it'll evacuate all the air, and the air bubbles that get trapped and ruin your mold will eject out of this hole that we're going to create using a piece of metal. And I'll fashion one for you, and I'll get that right out. We're all ready to go. What we have is we need to add a sprue or an air vent right here. So I just fashioned a quick piece of metal with a small angle, and that will fit right in the back of the head. And same process, pretty simple. What you want to do is just a drop of glue. The front. Up on the angle. This part gets a little bit complex because you're going to have to hold it for a little bit in order for the glue to start binding. And this is always a pain in the neck because crazy glue only works when it wants to, and typically on your fingers, right? So you're going to have to be patient. Okay, so it's semi-set. So I'm going to grab the kicker, hit it with a drop there. I'm going to hit it right here. Then I'm going to let that set. And pretty much that's it. You are all set up to make your mold and pour your silicone and pour the head for your bobblehead. So it's pretty cool. Very easy. This is a Dixie cup, I guess. It's clear, and I only have this clear one just to show you as an example what you're trying to achieve. What you're trying to achieve is this right here. You're trying to achieve that. So what you see is the head is suspended inside of a mold, which is a cup, right? Nice 1 penny, 2 pennies. Don't buy complicated things. You could use any container you find around the house, piece of cake. This is the way to go. And so that's what we're trying to achieve. Of course, as you can see, all that space at the bottom, this cup is just way too big and very costly to fill with silicone. Silicone will be your biggest cost, and that's all the time. So just try to keep your containers as small as possible. So what we're going to do is we have a simple 9-ounce cup, and of course it's not see-through, but that's okay. You get the idea. And all we're going to do is glue it right here, and that's your container. And we're going to glue it center. So it's centered 4 quadrants, right? So that you have enough space, enough silicone around, so that when you open up that mold. So it's pretty simple. All you're gonna do is take that out. So what you wanna do is in 2 quadrants where the tongue depressor or wood stick is gonna go, you'll just put some beads on opposing ends. Now, the real important part here is not to get a drip inside the cup. So if it goes inside the cup, it'll degrade the silicone and the silicone will never set. So you really have to be careful about that. So grab your head. Okay, there we are, center, center. And you don't want to use your kicker now. Your kicker, if it goes in the cup, will also make sure that the silicone doesn't react and it will not set. So keep the glue out of the cup. Keep your kicker out of the cup. So while the glue is setting, sometimes the glue may drip and go down the cup and you don't want that to happen. So what I did is I just grabbed the Q-tip, I bent it over, and I'll go exactly where the glue was first put down. Clean that off, make sure it's not running, and you should have a perfect mold. Alright, so now we're ready to make the mold for the body of the bobblehead. So as you can see, it's sitting here. It's awfully long. It's about 4.5 inches. And so what you want to do is, we need a container, of course, to make that mold, right? So we want to do something inexpensive. You don't want to buy something, you really don't want to make something, you don't want to waste that time. So what I was able to find, and you've seen this before, is this is a 12-ounce cup. But as you can see, it's way too big. So we're going to use 2 cups. And I'll show you what I mean by that. First thing we need to do, though, is secure this base. We're going to make the mold so that once we open the mold, it's going to be bottom up, base up, and that's where we'll pour out material. What we need to do is glue our bobble head and base to a material so that it's static and it's in one place. You can use foam core. That's what this material is right here. It's foam core. Also, what I have here, this is really cool. You should get some of this. This is like plastic corrugated. You see the corrugations right there? It's really, really cool because you could use it over and over and over again, and glue comes off of it right away. So once you have a piece, you could use it 1,000 times or the rest of your natural life, as they say. So what I'm going to do right quick, I also have a simple glue gun. Everyone should have one of these. If you don't have one, get them. They're very inexpensive. You get them at any hobby shop. So what I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to put a bead around the base and secure that before it gets hard. You can hold that in place, twist it back and forth, and it'll secure, and boom, there you go. So as you can see, that doesn't work. So what I did in advance was I kind of used my brains just a real little bit. And here's the same cup, and what I did was I just cut off the bottom. There you go, cut off the bottom. Boom, fits right on top, right? So as you can see, what's really, really cool is there is space all around the body. That's where the silicone's gonna fill in, so you need that. And all the way through the base. So you can see it's bigger at the base, and it comes up as a cone, and that's pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is, we're going to secure this with the glue gun. It'll take 2 seconds. It'll be nice and quick. It'll be great. And then I'll show you how we top off the top in order to get a full mold. Alright, so just watch quickly. I'm going to look at the top, make sure it's center center. And I'm going to put this bead all the way around. You should always push down from the top of the cup. If you hold it from the sides, you'll make the cup deformed. It won't be in a circle, and then that may give you some problems later on. That's all you need your glue gun for. Nice, it's all ready to go. So I see making this in a video is a little bit harder. As you can see, this is off to the side. That's alright, that's enough space for the silicone to bleed up, and we'll be able to make several copies. And there you go, see? Nice, it's all ready to go. So, real quick, what I did was I got another cup. This was a 9-ounce Dixie cup. How cool is that? So I'm using the logo right here as like a line. So I'm just going to cut off the top. Just gonna go around. I'm using my fingers on this side and this finger as a guide so it's somewhat straight. And it doesn't matter because you're pouring a liquid. Silicone is really a liquid. It's a thick liquid, and it'll level off itself at whatever height you decide to put it at. There's your bottom, there's your top. Here's your mold, and boom. Now we could just pour silicone inside there and fill it up to whatever level we want, and we have a working mold. Now, before you do that, what we're going to do is use our trusty crazy glue again, right? Everyone needs crazy glue. And so what we're going to do right quick is we're just gonna touch the edges. We're going to make sure that the crazy glue stays on the outside of the mold, not on the inside, right? We discussed this before, that crazy glue will not make silicone set up. So we're just going to hit it in a few places. And what's great is because they're both conical shaped or cone shaped, this will just attach to where it needs to be attached to. Hold it a few minutes. Okay, I need more crazy glue in certain places. Here we go. This should be it. And hold that, let it set. Okay. So what I did was I prepared some silicone, and here it is. It's already pre-mixed. I pre-mixed it, and it's already relaxed. Relaxed meaning all the bubbles, most of the bubbles are gone, but that's okay. They leave in time. So now we have two molds ready to go. This is the head, and here's the body. So what we're going to do is we just need to pour that silicone inside of the mold and get it to a proper height and let it relax and sit overnight and have all those bubbles gas out and just evacuate the mold. So here's our pre-made silicone, and what I'm doing is I'm using a spatula, and what we're going to do is just drizzle it inside of the mold. Okay, so as you can see, we're filling up that mold. These are 1 quart cups, and I put 10 ounces of silicone in it. It's easy to work with 10 ounces. It's easy to stir, it's easy to degas, and that's what you want to do, is make sure everything's working. Okay, so we poured in 1 10-ounce cup, and now we're going to have another 10-ounce cup pour in. And we're pouring nice and slow. And in that stream, if there are bubbles, the bubbles will pop if that stream is nice and thin. So that's what we're doing. We're making a nice thin stream. And we're going to top it off. We have to cover up that little button, that neck piece. So if you remember, we made the head, and here's the head and the mold. And that's ready to go, and that's ready to accept its silicone. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to drizzle it in. We're going to hit that tongue depressor, just to break up that silicone so it doesn't hit the head and knock it off its pins. And don't worry about air bubbles getting trapped underneath the head. Those bubbles will be pushed out by the silicone. And as you can see when you zoom in, you can see that there are trapped bubbles and they're coming to the surface. Here's one at the surface, and that bubble will pop on its own once the surface tension releases. It'll just pop, and you'll see in the other mold there are a couple of trapped bubbles that are coming up to the surface. Eventually they'll make their way up. It'll be a few hours, and those will pop once the surface tension releases also. So it's good to go. And we'll get to cutting them and opening them up and casting off. Okay, opening the mold. The simple tools that we're going to use is a needle nose plier, a spreader, X-Acto knife, and clipper. And a spreader is an interesting tool. This is a tool that you could open your mold and spread it open so that you could cut into the mold deeper, and I'll show you how that works as we get into it. So let's get to cutting your mold. Okay, so here's our mold, and you can see the head is solidified inside the silicone. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this open so that we can remove the sculpted head easily and put the tool back together so that we could cast a liquid resin and create a new head for our bobble. So what we want to do is keep the knife straight to the rim of the head without going all the way through it, because as you can see, there's a hole in there, and in there is silicone, and you don't want to cut that off, and I'll show you why once we open this up. And what I do is I wiggle the knife back and forth, and I just go in as deep as I can without getting really deep into the mold. And that wiggling will help you position it when you put it back together. So it'll only go on one way. It won't go on two ways, sideways. Okay, so, and once we meet the cut on the opposing side, we'll get our spreader. This is where it comes in, and you'll just stick that in there. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut deeper. So you're going to spread the mold open. You're going to spread it open so you can get your tool in there. And you're just going to follow that all the way around. Just pull that out. And there's the core. And that's what makes the opening, and this is where the neck of the bobble and the spring is going to go. So you need to keep that on your tool. Okay, now to remove the head, we're just going to go down the back. Simple line right down the back. It'll be hidden within the hair. And we're going to do the same thing. Okay, here we go. Just going to pull this out. And there it is. We have a perfect mold. And the inside looks like the person we're going to cast. We're going to clean that up a little later. And there's your mold, fitting perfectly back together. And that's how we cast into that, and we get an exact replica of the sculpture. We're going to work on cutting open the mold for the body, and so it's really simple. You just break it off, and there it is, 2 pieces. And you could use this again probably hundreds of times, so you want to save that. So this is a little bit more complex, and it's different plastic, so it's harder to open. So I'll just work at it and I'll make that happen for you. Just going to start right here and do the same thing for the bottom. Okay, I cut through that. So there's your bobble inside your solid silicone. And this is ready to cut open. And I'm going to show you how we do that. And this takes even shorter time than cutting open a head mold. And as you can see, it looks pretty simple. This body is linear, it's straight up and down, so it's no big deal. What you're going to do is just cut across. You're going to try to get all the way down, and I think the hand should be okay. I think that'll cast off and fill up on its own. Remember, it's going to be poured upside down. This will be the opening, and the material and bubbles will all be able to come up right to the top and come right out of here. Okay, so let's get going. Alright, I'm working on the second side. I'm just going to go right through. This is a piece of cake. As you can see, the silicone is very, very soft. We'll get into what silicones to use and what durometers and what suppliers at a later date. So I'm going to use that spreader right quick. Spread that open. Just going to cut right down that cut line. Your first cut line is your initial cut line. That'll be your guide all the way through. just spread that open. And you don't have to worry if you break your master pattern, right? That's why we're making a mold. That's the great thing about having a mold of your work, is that even if you break this pulling out of the mold, it doesn't matter because you could just cast one right away. So you could have another master without doing any of the sculpting. That's the cool thing. And of course, if you have an order for 20 or 30 or 50 of these, you have the mold. So, and we'll just pull that out. And it didn't break. That's pretty cool. So here that is, and here's your mold. Empty, ready to accept a 2-part resin, and we'll be able to cast up that part. And we'll get into casting right now. Awesome. Let's make it happen. Okay, so before we're going to cast these off, what you need to do is put them back together. It's really, really simple. I'll show you on the easier mold. Now, as you can see, we didn't cut all the way through the mold because that will help align it and close it. And all you need to do is close it. And how you do that is really simply and inexpensively. Grab your electric tape, start at the bottom, wrap around once, and then go all the way up to the top, cap it off, pull to rip, and there's your mold. And your head mold is a little bit more complicated because you have to hold the top on in place and you have to wrap around the base, and still it's a piece of cake. Take you 2 seconds. So what you need to do is realign that, get that back on. Electric tape, start it off, start at the bottom, wrap around once, go around twice, and you're going to come down to the bottom and up across the top. Down to the bottom, up across the top, and then seam them together. There you go. We are ready to mold. We'll get a 2-part urethane tinted flesh because we'll have to paint the bobble, all the different color clothes. What you want is a base, and the base should always be the flesh color because you don't want to paint the face flesh and see streaks and brush marks and things like that. And we'll get into that later. But for now, let's get into casting. Okay, so we're ready to cast, and what I did is I pre-mixed a 2-part epoxy resin, and it's tinted flesh, and I'm just mixing it together. And what I'm doing is I'm waiting for me to feel the cup getting warm, and once it gets warm, you know that it's starting to set. From there you have about a 2-minute set time. So it's getting a little warm. I'm going to grab that mold. There's your pour hole. There's your air escape hole. And we're going to wait till material comes out of that hole, and then we'll know that the mold is totally filled up. So that's what's called a vent. And you're going to wait for that vent to vent out. And there it is. See how that filled up? So now you know that all the air came out. This has been escaped. There should be no bubbles on the cast, and we'll find out in about 2 minutes. Okay, so we're ready to cast into our body mold, and it's all ready to go. I pre-mixed out resin material, and we're just going to pour that in. And this is nice and quick pour. You should have no gaps, no bubbles. Everything should be fine. And I'm just going to double check. Just going to top it off right at the rim. You don't want to put in too much. And just to show you the differences in color from this cast and the head, which we already poured, you can see it's solidifying, the color's changing, and that means the material is setting. So within a couple of minutes we'll open these up and you'll have 2 perfect casts. Okay, so we're back, and you can see our material has solidified. This one is super duper warm, a lot more material, and it's curing. So we're going to put this off to the side. We're going to work on the head mold. And it's pretty simple how to open up a mold. Get your X-Acto knife, strike through, strike across the bottom. You open that up. So this is where our trusty snippers come in. But what you'll really want to do is take this material off the top. It's going to be hard. We're pulling it apart when it's somewhat soft. Not too soft, because then your head will deform. This popped off right quick. This is your sprue that we put on originally. This is where you poured the material. We don't need that. Take this off. What you do first is you separate the mold. And there it is. There's your opening. That's where your neck and your spring goes. How cool is that, huh? Hot. And what you want to do now is get out the head. Spread it in half. Grab your head, wiggle it. And there it is. Just the way it should be. And what you'll do with your snippers, you'll quickly trim this off. And most of this just breaks off. You're going to come over here, you're going to trim off the next sprue. And then we'll take some sandpaper to that, and then we'll start painting. And there it is. Your perfect bobblehead. So even though it's still a little warm, the piece is very solid. So we're going to open it up anyway. And this is very simple. Just cut open. Boom, 2 seconds. Taking this one apart is really, really simple. What you're going to do is just spread it apart, both sides. You want the mold to detach from the part, and all you're going to do is open it up. Grab from the base, get a nice handle on it, wiggle and pull, and there it is. All ready to be painted. How cool is that? We'll trim this off, we'll clean it up, and we'll get it ready for paint. We'll pick out our paint. We'll decide what color jacket, the microphone, pants, shoes. It's got a logo in the back, and we'll just make it really nice for the customer. Okay? Okay, so we're going to start painting our bobblehead and our bobblehead body. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the head. And what we're going to need for this episode is an X-Acto knife. You're going to need a brush. You're going to most likely need a toothpick and larger brushes for larger areas. This is our subject, and basically he's got brown hair, he's got some gray, he's got some glasses, brown eyes. So it's pretty simple. We're going to use brown for 90% of the work, and then we're going to touch it up as we go along. So how we're going to start off, we're going to paint the whites of the eyes. We're going to give it an initial coat just like that's there. And then we're also going to give an initial coat to the hair just to get a base coat of paint on it. Let that dry, then we'll go in and touch that up. Okay, let's start. Okay, now that the whites of the eyes are done, we're going to move over to the brown, and we're going to start out with the eyebrows. Okay, so we're ready for the body. The body's very simple. The Bobble is holding a silver microphone. He's wearing a black leather jacket. He's gonna have some jeans, black sneakers. Boom, that's it. Let's rock and roll. Make it happen. And so we're applying the silver first, and then we'll work from there. We'll do the hardest paints first, and then down to the easiest paints and the easiest portion to paint. Okay, so now that we finished the silver microphone, we're going to go on to the base coat on the blue jeans, and that'll just be a quick base coat just to get that color into the material. Alright, we started on the jeans, now we're just going to start on the black leather jacket, just so you can see how we just moved to a different color, and then we'll finish it up as we go along. Okay, so what you can see is we trim it out so that we separate the different colors, and so we take a little bit of extra care and time in doing that, and then we just fully wash out the area. So it's just like when you were coloring when you were a kid. You would do the outline first, and then you would fill in inside the outline. Same process. It's that simple. All right, let's move on. This is awesome. I hope you like the tutorial so far. Okay, so we're on the final stages of painting the bobblehead, and as you can see, the body's all done, but now we're going to add some detail. As you can see, the gentleman has dark brown hair, and he has some white in it, and we're just going to add that now. And as you can see, we're just doing a soft dusting of medium gray on top of the brown, so it looks like you can see through the gray and you can see the base color of his hair. It's a pretty cool technique. Gets the point across, and it just looks great. Okay, so we're finally done. The final touches are on, and there it is. Perfect bobblehead. HeroBuilders.com. We can make anything. Okay, so here we are. We're at the final stages, assembly. This is very easy. Demystifying how to make a bobblehead. Everyone gets intimidated. I don't know why. So what we're going to use in this episode is a simple clipper, crazy glue, basic hobby sticks, tongue depressors, whatever you want to call them, pop sticks, and just a general spring. What I did is I actually went out and I bought this at a local hardware store. So it's pretty simple. So as you can see, this is way too big to make a bobble. So what you're going to do is you're going to estimate where you want to cut it. And what you want to do is you want the cut part on the neck detail, and you want the flat part, which is double wound, and that'll be on the top where the head sits. So you're going to do a little test, and as you can see, it's still a little bit long. It shows out the bottom. So just cut off another coil of that spring, see where it ends up, and then there we go. Once it's glued on, it'll hold on well. Okay, so I have the spring on. I'm going to tighten that up a little bit, tighten up those coils. I'm just going to add a bead of crazy glue to the back, and you'll just let that set for a few seconds. Okay, we're ready to use a hot glue gun to glue the spring into the head, and we'll hold that right quick. So it's pretty simple. What I found is the best way to do it is to add the glue to the spring, and I just go around the perimeter and in the center, and I do add quite a bit, and that'll just expand out as you put it inside the head. And what we're going to do is just drop that center. We're just going to hold it. Wiggle it around, get that glue all over the base in there, and basically you definitely have to hold this for about 5 minutes and make sure it's totally solidified. I also plunge it in and out to get some of the glue attaching inside the spring. And 10 minutes later, here we are. I don't know if you could see that, but it bobbles really well. And that's how you make a bobblehead. Excellent stuff.